Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Powerful People today. It's been a little while since we've had one. I'm really excited to share this one today. We're really fortunate today. We're going to be talking to two really special people who have helped transform Power for Parkinson's programming in some really special ways. Today I have Joan Asseff and Elena Eddington, who have worked together to launch Power for Parkinson's support groups. And we've had local support groups and virtual support groups. And today we're going to learn about some of their takeaways, how social workers can further support people with Parkinson's or other facilitators. So I'm just going to introduce the two of them, give you a little background, and we'll bring them on. So first of all, Joan, she's a licensed clinical social worker, and she's a clinical associate professor, board-approved supervisor for the state of Texas, and a health interprofessional educational fellow with UT's, which University of Texas Center for Health interprofessional education. And she served and held leadership positions in gerontology, healthcare, housing stability, financial empowerment, program development, interdisciplinary collaboration, and mental health. And she's the co-director of the GRACE program at the University of Texas, which is gerontology, resources, and the aging community in education, which helps prepare students to work with older adults. She is a wealth of information. She's just been supervising so many of our interns and facilitators, and she's been integral in just making all this programming happen. So we're really excited to have her here today. And Elena, many of you may have seen Elena on online with us in various capacities, teaching classes, but Elena is in the Master of Social Work program at UT in Austin, and she joined Power for Parkinson's community care team to help support our participants, to offer more opportunities for connection, and she helped launch the support groups with Joan. And she's just done a fabulous job, and she wrapped up her year as the official social work intern, but she's still working with us in other capacities and hasn't left. But we thought this would be a perfect time to talk about kind of how this all came to be, her experience, and I just think it's some real, they're full of information and have done some great work. So, and just as a reminder, Elena does teach yoga in her free time, and for Power for Parkinson's, she teaches our Standing Warrior class in person in Austin, and online she teaches the YOPD class and Energize and Exercise. So she is our youngest and newest instructor who is trained with Lauren Lewis, and she's doing a fabulous job. We're really excited to have her as part of our team. So I am going to welcome our guest today. You two can pop right on. Hi, Elena.
Hi, hello, y'all. Happy to be here.
Hi, Joan.
Thank you so much for that wonderful welcome. It's great to be
here. I am so happy to have both of you here and just to share you with the world, with our community. I hope I didn't miss anything really important that I should share, because you both have just such great backgrounds and are doing so much. Joan, hopefully I know there's more. I know you've done more.
Sounded great, and I can definitely offer context as we go through, but that was
okay. All right. That's
very, very gracious. Thank you again.
Sure, absolutely. So I thought we could just start off, think like kind of going back to the beginning about when we started our support groups, and maybe you two could just talk a little bit, maybe like how you went about preparing to launch our support groups? What prepared you, Joan, and then was able to help Elena also get started? And
Sure, maybe I can start and then I'll popcorn over to you, Joan, to fill in whatever I miss. So as I, started as the social work intern in August, kind of transitioned from the program coordinator to doing social work things, kind of the most natural space to start with seemed to be support groups. And I think that was because Power for Parkinson's had previously offered support groups and community members really had appreciated those. And so once I had come around, a lot of people were like, are support groups coming back? So, quite a few people mentioned that would be something they appreciated. And so when I brought it up to Joan in supervision, she, as you heard in her intro, has a wealth of professional experience, and she could bring in both like the clinical experience of facilitating the support groups and also the programmatic development piece of helping to kind of build the infrastructure to coordinate these support groups, who's facilitating them, how to get the word out, and really building like the background to make the 1 hour and 15 minutes happen. There's a lot of behind the scenes that goes into that. So I think it's the short of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Elena. You really set a great picture there and really hit on the highlights. I'll back up a little bit and give the context of social work education, so folks understand kind of the structure that we're working with.
Yeah.
So I serve as Elena's what we call in social work education external practicum instructor. Those are kind of a lot of words to get out of one's mouth. The way to kind of condense that is to understand that a student placed in an agency needs to have an instructor or a supervisor who has a social work degree. And Power for Parkinson's is doing some amazing work in our community, as we all know, and currently does not have a social worker on staff. So for Elena to be able to learn in this amazing agency setting, my practicum instruction was needed. And I couldn't have been happier to receive that invitation from Nina and from the agency as a whole, because my background is kind of this synthesis or hybrid of program development, as Elena talked about, and clinical work, and also social work education. So I was excited about bringing all of those skills to bear to support the groups coming back in person. So it was a bit of a scramble, right? We were like, Elena's starting her graduate school program, and these groups need to be up and running within a number of weeks. And so thankfully I've been on those short timelines before in agencies. And my primary concern and role was there were really two, to bring high quality support groups with really well-informed evidence-based facilitation to Power for Parkinson's, right? So that everyone that comes to the groups has a welcoming, meaningful experience that supports them to come back. And also my role as an educator, right, putting on that educator hat, was to make sure that Elena was learning those essential social work skills around group facilitation, building mutual aid, universality, finding themes in the group, and so forth. So I'll stop there, but those were some of my initial contributions. And I have to say, it was really so meaningful and such a joyful process to jump in and hit the ground running.
So, well, I know that you have done a fabulous job, and I guess we can just say that, Joan, you've been kind of working, well, of course, with all the students, but you've been also running a caregiver support group, and then Elena's had been working with the women
with PD.
So maybe we can just also mention that we have kind of separated the groups a little bit here locally. It was something that had happened pre-pandemic, and we kind of picked back up on that. And I don't, if you want, because I know there are different structures that different groups use. Sometimes, it has to do with just availability of facilitators. So either all the people with Parkinson's and their caregivers are together, but we have separated it to the men with Parkinson's, women, and care partners. Do you want to maybe talk about how that works and maybe differences between groups or that you might have come across? Or
Elena,
too much.
Sure, I can start. Yeah. So I was facilitating the in-person Women with PD group for the whole last academic year. And if any of y'all are here, shout out. I miss that group so much. I really feel like cultivated such like a bond and a group bond. So I can really only speak to facilitating that in-person group, and I subbed in the men's group once. So I don't know so much about maybe the differences between the group. I know that I think that our intention behind separating the three groups was, on the one hand, we had enough people that were interested in attending that it would have been a big group if we were all in one group. So we maybe would have talked about separating it in different ways anyway. And we also had other classmates of mine, students from the School of Social Work, that were interested in volunteering to gain facilitation experience and join the community. So that was a great way to plug in students to facilitate these other groups. So I think that's kind of the short why behind why we broke it up. Yeah. And I think then that has, again, just speaking for the women's group, kind of facilitated a space that feels really unique. It's really nice to get the opportunity to connect with everybody during like the exercise class, the before and after socializing part of the exercise class. But having a smaller group that was just women allowed us to kind of, I think, connect in a really special way. So yeah, that was my experience in the in-person women's group.
Yes, and I'll just add that I think having groups that allow folks to discuss specific challenges that may be coming up, that are that intersection between their disease process and their gender identity, that can be really impactful to have a space to do that. And I think that was one other reason for considering the division, right, and having that breakout of the groups. And as Elena said, we had the staffing, we had the support to do it, thanks to Elena's great work around conducting outreach to cultivate interest in facilitation. And it's really been so wonderful to see some of our other students, some of our other great students, enjoy this rich learning opportunity at Power for Parkinsons, be able to facilitate or co-facilitate groups as well. So I think there's been a lot of benefit across both, the agency needs, the participants' interest and needs, and also our students' learning needs. So it's been a win-win for sure.
Yeah. And if I could just say one more thing that came into my mind, I'm thinking about the virtual group that I have been facilitating. There's both a care partner group and a group for people with Parkinson's that meets virtually. And our virtual group for people with Parkinson's is intermingled amongst various genders, right? So we don't separate that group. And I think that has its own unique strengths. Just in the same way that Joan said, there's unique strengths in being separated. I think that us gathering as both men and women in that group has its unique strengths and fostered connections amongst people that I don't know if we otherwise would have had the chance to connect with. So that's been special in its own way too.
Yes, and I can definitely see that. And I think there are a lot of, ways of breaking up a group if it's too big. There are other ways we can even look at it. I know we've had requests to have a support group for people that are living alone, and perhaps there are other ways that people could also segment if necessary, or they wanted, I guess. But even with everyone being together, there's so many different issues that can be brought up, and Parkinson's is like a disease of the family. It affects everybody in different ways. I was wondering if you had any thoughts, or some topics that might have come up, distinct to a group of people with Parkinson's, maybe if we start with that, or the specific concerns that maybe have come up. I don't know if that's too broad a question, but
I don't think it's too broad a question, and I would be interested to hear from Joan too. Joan, like you said, Nina, has been facilitating the care partner group, so I'm thinking of some themes that I've heard from groups of people with Parkinson's. So I could share those. And then maybe, Joan, if you can think of any themes from facilitating the care partner group, maybe we can pass to you.
Yeah.
Sure. Like I said, great question, Nina. I think that a conversation that we had multiple times and without it becoming stale, meaning people had a lot to say about it, was talking about the ways that people's relationships with other friends and family members changed after they both found out they had Parkinson's and then decided to share with people that they had Parkinson's, particularly friendships. I think that like, kind of the sentiment people maybe found out who their real friends were, noticed that people didn't really know maybe how to handle Parkinson's, their Parkinson's, and so they stopped reaching out entirely. Or people were really overinvested and tried to help in ways that felt maybe not entirely what the person was looking for help. So yeah, a lot of talk around how relationships shifted. I think that's like been really the biggest one in both the in-person and the virtual group.
I'll echo that challenge or issue. It's come up certainly in the care partner group as well, which one can imagine, right? That makes sense that care partners or caregivers are also receiving maybe, unsolicited advice or, help in ways that are not actually helpful from others. And so how to set those boundaries. And then also conversely, folks who drop off, right? They say, maybe this is too much for us to bear witness to or to be involved with. And so the care partner, caregivers don't hear from those, folks in their social network anymore. They, they kind of lose those relationships. So both challenges have come up. One other theme that is common in the care partner group is around losses and changes, and being able to grieve those changes and have recognition around the fact that they are losses and that they deserve attention and that one should be allowed to grieve. I think it's hard in our society when there has not been a death for someone who is not going through the process of caregiving to understand that grief can still be present, right? When maybe your loved one was walking and now they're not able to walk, or they were able to speak without any problems and now their speech is softer. All of those changes can be understood as losses. So we work a lot on normalizing grief and also celebrating the successes and the joys, and understanding that doing both, going through both of those processes is a really important part of living and thriving with Parkinson's. That, you can't do one of those, have one of those processes without the other, without kind of missing the self-compassion part that every caregiver and of course every person living with Parkinson's deserves and should have. So that's another thing that comes up a lot. What I love, another aspect of the care partner group I love, is that they share so many incredible resources that sometimes I don't even need to be in the room. It feels like at moments where they are just sharing clinical trials and, podcasts and other, resources that they all know about, that some know about and others don't. Yeah. And it's just inspiring to see that mutual aid that goes on in the groups. And I'm sure Elena goes on in the groups for those living with Parkinson's as well. So I just wanted to add that aspect of the experience.
Yes. Joan, I really appreciate you pointing out that kind of the ambiguous loss, the various sort of ambiguous losses that can be associated with Parkinson's. And I think that comes up a lot in the groups I've been facilitating as well. And another sort of grief that I think also comes up a lot is like anticipatory grief, kind of looking ahead. I think that given the progressive nature of Parkinson's, a lot of people are looking ahead. And something that a lot of group members have brought up is how that makes them feel now, how looking ahead impacts their mood or their emotional experience, which brings me to another trend that I want to share with whoever's listening. a lot of what I've been talking about in the in-person group are the mental health symptoms of Parkinson's, specifically depression. And so that's something that a lot of group members, from what I've gathered, have appreciated kind of sharing and realizing that they are by no means the only person that's experiencing that. So that's come up a lot as well.
I mean, I think that's such an important topic that you're bringing up, like the loss, because it's such a broad thing. And I know just me personally, knowing that with my own father, that you know, as he got very advanced in his journey, I mean, he had a lot of trouble communicating, where he was an incredible communicator up until then. And I know it was very hard for my mother and for the whole family. So, and I can see that. But being able to share those experiences for the person with Parkinson's, because they have their own view, and the care partner, I think, is so, I mean, just to have that space to be able to share with other people is so meaningful and helpful, to just be heard and to know you're not alone. You're not the only one struggling with the same issues.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something special about gathering with people who get it in a way that maybe other people that you gather with don't. So I really appreciate it. I've been so grateful to be a part of these support groups.
Same here. And I also just want to recognize how much Elena has learned using the terms like anticipatory grief and ambiguous loss. For our listeners, you know, you haven't heard those terms before, definitely look those up around, you know, the experiences of grief and expecting, you know, grief to come, knowing that it's coming, and also not always having your grief understood, as Nina pointed out, in that kind of ambiguous way, you know, and not having it recognized. And another term just to put out there is disenfranchised grief, where folks are not really recognizing the grief. They say, oh, well, your loved one is still with you, so why would you be grieving, right? Or you're still alive, you're doing well overall, why would you be grieving about this change in your condition, right? And so we want to really support folks around feeling their feelings and feeling you know, that they can express themselves and process openly without judgment. And Power for Parkinson's does an incredible job providing those spaces in these support groups where people can really do that. So,
yes. Well, I see we have a couple comments online that I just want to bring up while we're talking. One of our friends who's been with us quite a bit, Grace, that it sounds like it's very upsetting to talk about the loss issue. And I think one of the things maybe you could also address is, I mean, there is a sense of loss, and I know a lot of people feel that, but I do think that there's also a lot of hope that can be offered to people. So it's kind of, I don't know if you have any comments that you want to make surrounding that or relating to that comment.
absolutely. I can jump in, Elena.
Yeah,
Sure.
Well, you know, in my thoughts as I prepared for today, I was thinking about the incredible resilience that I've seen, and I know Nina and Elena, you have seen among PFP participants, and not just, I mean, resilience is amazing to note, right? That is absolutely evident. And I want to lift back up the word I used earlier around thriving. I mean, folks traveling, folks, you know, hosting events at their home, doing whatever they want to do, living life in such meaningful. And that has just been inspirational to see. It's not surprising, though. I think many people living with chronic conditions do so much of what they want to do. And I have seen that over and over again with Power for Parkinson's participants, really expressing joy and reaching many, if not most or all of their goals for their day, for their week, for their year. Yeah. And so absolutely we want to celebrate what folks are doing, because it's a ton. including coming to the groups and exercising, coming to the support groups, right? All of those are accomplishments in and of themselves. So I appreciate our participant today and the comment that was made so that we can lift up all of that resilience and all of those accomplishments. Elena, did you have anything you want to add?
Well, I just so agree. Like you said, I appreciate the point being made. Like, yeah, what about the other side of the coin, right? And to your point, Joan, of saying helping folks feel their feelings, I feel like something that I've admired observing in both virtual and in-person participants, exercise classes, is how much the folks I've gotten to meet have felt their feelings, whether that's having a tough day or having a really exciting day. But this ability to, like hold both, to both have Parkinson's and be looking forward to a trip, or that be a care partner and be looking forward to lunch group or whatever it might be. That's been really powerful. So yes, like I said, really appreciate pointing out that it is not all doom and gloom. That's for sure.
Absolutely not. And I know I get excited when I'm, driving to these groups every month, thinking about, what types of resilience, stories of resilience am I going to hear? Because I know I will.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's remarkable what I've seen and heard from people with Parkinson's, and going to the World Parkinson's Congress, and it was story after story of these unbelievable stories of what people are capable of doing, and people that can really get down but also can really feel uplifted once they come to terms, often with with their Parkinson's, or as much to terms as possible. And I just want to say, kind of at this juncture, because I'm getting a little emotional myself, but I'm thinking about my dad, who was he was a psychoanalyst, and he had Parkinson's. And when I started Power for Parkinson's with the exercise classes, he was extremely supportive. But he always said, when do your participants have a chance to talk? Because he was that was his life, was talk therapy. And the fact that you've brought this to Power for Parkinson's, and just talking about it with the community, I think is so important. And I see, I want to just mention a couple other comments. We have Kathleen here, who has done some incredible, is a credible representative for the Parkinson's community, I believe. And I see that she's made a few comments here about, the benefits of splitting groups by gender, and also talking about relationships and how those are harder, I think is what she's referring to. And so I think, that is something I facilitated a couple groups, and that's come up also. So I think that's always an issue, like people understanding what Parkinson's is, where somebody's at, is always difficult. And I guess it's difficult for many, many conditions, that others don't understand exactly what you're going through and don't know how to communicate about that.
Yeah, I've had quite a few folks mention how tiring it feels to have to educate not only their friends about what Parkinson's is, or their family members, but sometimes even their healthcare providers. If they're not, their neurologist, if they're going to therapy and they're talking about whatever's going on, and they have to spend their session explaining to the person what Parkinson's is, or instead of receiving support from their friend, educating their friend on what Parkinson's is. So I think you make a good point, Nina, about interacting with people and them not understanding what's going on with you.
Yeah. So I'm curious, Joan, because you're the co-director of the GRACE program. So how do you see, because I feel like within in our Parkinson's world, there are very few therapists, social workers that are aware, know Parkinson's or know older adults well. And what are you kind of working on with your program, or what do you expect with that?
Absolutely. So, and again, I hope I mentioned, but if I didn't mention, I want to be clear that our program is funded by the St. David's Foundation. And so we fall under kind of a health equity focus within that realm. And our core work really is to grow the number of social workers who are interested in, have knowledge about working with older adults. So that's kind of our main mission, if you will. And we now have a network of over 200 of our graduates out in the world, some locally, some nationally, that are, working in the field of aging, doing, micro level work. They're running programs. Some are in Washington, D.C. So we're really excited about that ongoing impact of building a workforce of social workers and working with other professionals, of course, to really seize or provide some significant, changes and impact in the field of aging, because we know the population shift and where it's headed, where it already is and where it's headed. So that's our core focus. More recently, we have really been diving or taking a closer look at how can the GRACE program support health equity or help our students foster health equity through their practicum learning. And Elena's work, along with your support and leadership, Nina, is a great example of that. In that, I know, Elena, you've conducted interviews with community partners or potential community partners who are interested in supporting people living with Parkinson's, and how can PFP be a contributing partner, a great partner in that work? How can resources be coordinated? How can you all better understand the landscape of Parkinson's resources so that folks get access to care, right? The best access, the most comprehensive access to care. And so it's really been a joy to plug in with Elena's learning, but also to be invited. And thank you, Nina, for inviting me into the work, invited into those efforts for growth within PFP around how do we expand our programming? How do we reach folks we haven't been able to reach before and make sure that they know about the services we provide? So health equity is it's always been a focus, but we're really looking more at how can we support our students and our partnering agencies around reaching a broader swath of the community and more groups of people. So.
Yes. And that's always a very big effort for all of us. And it's been great having you and having Elena on the team to just help us, expand on all of that. And I think, well, for those who might be listening, we all worked on a design thinking project to try to maximize what it is, our outreach. And, it's not easy with a small team, but it's in the works, I guess I should say, and it's an ongoing project. And Elena, you did a great job, helping us.
Yeah, no, that was great. Yeah, I mean, and to Joan's point, it wasn't only me that was getting to interview and have conversation, but it was really our whole team. We had a few OT interns at the time that were helping. I think we had a few dozen conversations with different leaders or organizations around Austin that are either focused on aging or focused on reaching communities we haven't been able to reach yet, to kind of start having conversations. And I think, Joan, you laid it out really well. Just start wondering how we can keep showing up for people and coordinate resources and make sure that we're supporting the people that are looking for support.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that since we are talking, hopefully there's some people listening here that are, they may not have support groups, or they may have a smaller Parkinson's group, but if they want to have a conversation or have more of what might be a support group, but may not have like a specific facilitator. Do you have any suggestions about like topics to bring up, or a way of, maybe you can also touch on like group guidelines, what it means when you're in a support group. Um,
Absolutely. You want me to jump in, Elena?
Go for it.
You can pick up where I left off. Well, and Elena, I know you have a lot of this information put together. So of course, we're always glad to share resources. And by that, I mean, Elena will
Yes.
send you an email like that. But of course, the Parkinson's Foundation has some really great resources that provide folks at all levels of training and all levels of knowledge with practical guidelines for support, for starting a support group. So if you've got someone who's just beginning to think about how might I do that in my agency, my program, my community, really want to point you in that direction to that resource. In terms of general group guidelines, of course, we always stress, and as a teacher, I really provide guidelines and models around how do we emphasize confidentiality within our groups. How do we make sure that we set the tone, and we give guidelines around relational communication, right? Folks are showing up to receive supportive, ideas and resources. And I'll say we've never had any challenges in our groups around that. And it's important, and it's a essential part of facilitation to make sure that group members know that the facilitator is holding those values for the group and with the group, right? That what's shared will be kept confidential, that we will communicate in supportive and relational ways, and that if we do have a difference of opinion, we're going to engage in that discussion in ways that, again, are respectful and inclusive. So Elena and I partnered, early on to develop some guidelines that we bring to the groups so that participants can engage in a mutual discussion around, are these the guidelines that we'd like to use? And would we like to offer additional guidelines? So it's a collaborative process of building those group guidelines, and then when necessary, touching back to them if we have a moment of difference of opinion, which in any group is going to occur, right? Or maybe there's group members that are not having the opportunity to share as much, and we want to open up space for those group members. And so that's why, I think the social work facilitation skills, and of course I'm biased as a social worker, but I think that those facilitation skills are so important to have in these spaces so that, each participant is respected, honored, and included in that process. Elena, do you have any other thoughts to add? Or
I just have a few thoughts, and my first is just another resource. I'm thinking of PMD Alliance, which I think there's actually a separate Powerful People interview with Nina and them, but they have a lot of great support group resources. And to your point, Nina, of maybe it being a smaller group where the group doesn't have access to a facilitator or a social worker, I think that there can be a lot of power in like a peer-led group, and really acknowledging that maybe the things that distinguish a conversation and a support group are really not that complicated. It could be those guidelines that Joan just talked about that help distinguish that space so that folks, feel a little more comfortable showing up and know what to expect. And maybe one person designated as the leader to, like Joan said, kind of hold those values for the group. But otherwise, I think there might be a lot of space for folks to step into that leadership role themselves. And I've seen that happen with members of our group, which meets once a month, them meeting kind of between the monthly groups every 2 weeks or so. One person stepped up and was like, we should meet more. Do y'all want to meet more? And they kind of do that on the side some. So yeah, I think there could be a lot of opportunities for connection that look like support groups and look like having a conversation.
Absolutely.
Yes. And that's why I think we have lunch groups, so those people get together and talk, and many times, concerns come up. I mean, it's a social time also, but
Yeah.
help but talk about some of the issues, medications, or things that you're dealing with at home. So I think all those serve a good purpose. There's another comment, and I know we probably should wrap up pretty soon, but I just want to make sure that we touch on this because it's so important. Again, Kathleen's bringing up about the young onset group, young YOPD, and finding therapists, and also even support for a younger group of people with Parkinson's. And I just want to say I've worked, it's been a kind of a focus of mine for many years, is to try to connect people that are newly diagnosed and might be consider YOPD, so even under 50 in their 30s to 50s or something like that. And I think it's a hard group to bring together for a number of reasons, because a lot of people have families or they're working, and it's where there's denial, or there's different reasons why it's hard to bring that group together. But I think I guess if we put it out there that, we've tried to have support groups, it's something we could also try again if there is a group that is interested to do something virtual. Or I just want to encourage people to make sure that you try to communicate, because it's so important. And people that are younger have a lot of other issues that they're trying to cope with. So I don't know if either of you have some specific suggestions, or even maybe, I don't know if this would be in your realm, Joan, but just finding a therapist because there aren't that many that would probably understand Parkinson's per se, but how they could still be helpful.
Right. It's a great question. And one strategy, though, I know it can kind of lend itself to surfing online, which is hard. But as you as we all, when we're looking for a mental health professional, as you're reading bios, reading descriptions online, to really look for someone who has some healthcare background and experience, has worked with people who have lived experience, with chronic conditions or health conditions, because a therapist with that background is more likely to have a better understanding of some of the common issues and challenges that come up, and is likely to be trained in the modalities to support a person living with a chronic condition, especially with early onset. So I think that's one recommendation. The other thought that I know is it may sound new, it is new, and I think it's still worth considering, especially for really busy folks who may be younger and facing early onset, is to check in with a case manager. So there are healthcare case management groups now. There are also geriatric case management groups, and there are social workers and nurses, much like myself, who actually have lists or go to providers that they can connect you with, and help you navigate that process without having to make 20 phone calls. Now there may be a cost associated, consultation fee, which I know is not possible or it may be prohibitive for some folks. And if resources are there, that is another option. And then, of course, the social work intern at PFP, right, and social workers in other settings that can make those calls on your behalf, right, to help you conduct some of that outreach to find a mental health professional that is knowledgeable. So those are a few ideas, and I just want to, really emphasize how important it is to find a mental health professional that really can take a deep dive into those challenges and issues, especially around being a younger person living with Parkinson's. Elena, did you have any other thoughts?
Well, I'm just thinking about how hard it is to find a mental health professional, period. So I can imagine when you're looking through the very specific lens that some of our listeners might be looking through, that could be really tricky, I can imagine. And I'm also thinking back, if you're a book person, I'm thinking back to a few books I read by Alan Cole, who has been involved with both PFP and obviously UT School of Social Work. But I really appreciated the insight I gained through reading some of his book about what the experience was like to have YOPD, to be deciding when and how to share that with various people in his life. So I don't know, maybe I've heard a few friends at PFP have like recommended books to people. So like I said, so they don't have to educate them. So maybe that's a book you could look into to share with somebody that you want to know more about what it's like to have YOPD.
And I love that idea. I'll just add, and you alluded to this too, Nina, the idea that, for younger folks living with Parkinson's, it might, the support might look different, right? The support strategies. And like you said, it might be finding one person who connect with and who can kind of be your processing partner, around the experiences. Not that a group isn't also a great idea. And if you're raising a family, you're working full time, it can be harder, to attend a group and to really access those services. So I think making those connections, maybe through your a faith community, if you have one, or finding folks online through various online forums that you can ping, if you will, right? Like, I'm having a rough day today. Can I run this by? Can we talk about this? So just another thought around how to get that support.
Yeah. Well, I think that's really great advice for people. And I think that I'm just trying to see if I missed any comments along the way, but I think I covered most of them, and I think this was really great information. And I don't know if there's any last parting words that you both have, but you're have done such really help Power for Parkinson's and so many people in our community so much. So we're very grateful to you and to have you involved with us. Anyone?
Oh, thanks, Nina. I can't emphasize enough how transformative being able to work here and be the intern here has been. For me, I just feel like I've learned so much from all the people I've gotten to meet. So in a selfish way, I'm so grateful to, like I said, I've worked here and I've just learned so much. So I know that there's a new social work intern at PFP, so I'm grateful to see how we continue to reach out to people and support people and connect with people.
I'll just add, I feel immense gratitude to be invited in to the work of PFP and to be welcomed as a thought partner around so many different initiatives. Again, as a practitioner by background, it's really enjoyable, and it's great to see the evolution of the social work programming that has occurred at PFP. The fact that your participants can call a social work intern and get some immediate support through brief relational counseling, connection to resources, and just being heard in the moment, rather than having to make a call maybe to an agency or provider who doesn't know them as well, because you all know your participants so well and their stories. And so it's been wonderful to see that integration of social work practice where a participant can really access that initial support and patient navigation, help with finding transportation resources, whatever might be coming up, that they don't have to start with those 20 phone calls to get that support, that there's a caring relational person available to them. And of course, there always has been, and you're a small team. So it's great to have this additional layer, right? And so I'm really grateful for the open door that you all provided for me to come in and just offer knowledge and expertise to build on the strong programming you already have. And it's a joy to see the benefits of your exercise program for living with Parkinson's. I didn't get to see that before in my other professional opportunities and work. So that's just truly inspiring to see.
Well, great. Well, thank you both so much. And I guess we should just say that, we do have some virtual support groups available, and I'll just encourage people to, if not with us, seek some in your own neighborhood or online. Again, PMD Alliance is a wonderful resource that lists a bunch of different support groups around the country. And you can always call our office or email us, and we're here. We have another intern, Haley Wagner, who's here right now and also working very closely with Joan and Elena, and she's fabulous as well. And we feel very fortunate that we can keep this going. So
yeah, come to our virtual support groups.
Yay.
That's what I heard you say, Nina.
What was that? Virtual?
I said, come to our virtual support groups.
Yes, come to the virtual support groups. Exactly. So get on our mailing list and you'll find out when they are. And thanks again, everybody.
Thanks so much, Nina.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for being here, Joan.
Okay, so great to see both of you.
You too. Bye-bye.